and took a little longer than we thought it would. But we appreciate everyone being here. If you're here to speak during our public comment period, there are some forms out on the podium out there. If you'd grab one and fill it out and hand it to Wendy, our deputy recorder. We'll begin tonight with our opening ceremony and turn the time over to Councilmember Peterson for the opening ceremony.
Thank you. If you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Father in heaven, we come to thee as we begin our policy session for the Clearfield City Council. We are grateful to be able to assemble and to be able to exercise our freedoms, to be able to work on behalf of the residents of our community. We are grateful for those who serve and protect and afford us those freedoms, and pray that please we watch over those who protect our community and those who are far away from them in defense of our country. We ask that we might be able to deliberate this evening in wisdom and to be able to keep the best interests of those here in Clearfield as we proceed. We ask that we might be able to do this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Nika. Council, we have minutes to approve this evening from the February 2nd work session, February 6th work session, February 27th work session, and the March 13th policy session. Get a chance to review the minutes, and are there any corrections or additions? If not, I entertain a motion on the minutes.
Your Honor, I move to approve the minutes of February 2nd, 2018 work session, February 6th, 2018 work session, February 27, 2018 work session, and the March 13th, 2018 policy session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes stand as submitted. First item on our agenda tonight is a public hearing to receive public comment on a general plan amendment to change the land use classification on the city's future land use map from commercial to residential for the property located at 1215 South and 1000 East. Spencer, would you like to give us some background on that?
Absolutely. Spencer Brimley, Clearfield City Community Development Director. Thank you, Mayor. Hopefully your screens are working so you can see what the presentation is. The request, or they're not, so at least everybody else can see. The request is a general plan amendment on the corner of 1000 East and 1215 South. I apologize. The request is by Mr. Chad Buck, and the purpose of this request is to change the general plan designation from what currently is commercial to residential in order to facilitate a rezone on the property from C2 to R3. Staff has taken this application to the Planning Commission, which they have recommended positively to the City Council. Additionally, we had a work session last week with the City Council wherein we discussed some of the issues related to that and some of the concerns that I'll address at the end of my presentation, if that's okay. But relative to this request, staff believes that the request is consistent with Clearfield General Plan based on guideline 1, 3, 5, 6, and 7 under the land use section within that code, which facilitates new and innovative development, revitalizes an area within the city, provides a little bit of a transition between single-family dwellings and what is a highly trafficked area. And so with that in mind, staff presented this information to the City Council last week with the intent that the City Council has the option to either recommend approval, denial, or to table this item for further consideration. Is there any questions for staff at this time relative to this matter? I think I'll address those concerns that came up in the rezone presentation, if that's all right with the council.
Okay, well then, thank you, Spencer. We'll go ahead and declare the public hearing open. I don't have any forms. Is there anyone here to speak in regards to this general plan change? Okay.
Seeing no comments, I move to close the public hearing.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. So the second item on our agenda is our other public hearing to receive public comment on the rezone request for the property located at 1215 South, 1000 East from C2 commercial to R3 multifamily residential. Spencer?
Thank you, Mayor. Spencer Brimley, Clearfield City staff again. So this request is, as I indicated earlier, on the end of the general plan request. The purpose, again, Mr. Chad Buck is requesting this designation on the property for the purpose of building 8 units of a townhome project. The zoning in the area, you have R3 to the north, you have single-family residential to the east, as well as the commercial to the west and the south. And so this does provide a little bit of a buffer between that single-family and some fourplex, duplex to the north relative to this development. It would be new and innovative and a good product for this area. And staff feels like there is support relative to the general plan to support this rezone request. Last week in our city council work session, we discussed this item, and I think Councilmember Peterson brought up some concerns that were shared amongst the other council members, and I've met with the developer and talked to him about some of those concerns. Some of the concerns were relative to, and I'm going to go to this slide right here, relative to the western facade of the development. There was some concern relative to the simplicity of that facade and whether or not, how that would interact with 1000 East. Having met with the developer and discussed those concerns with the council, or with him, he has expressed an interest and desire to make sure he meets the needs or the desires of the council relative to the product. He's also gone and taken pictures of other products that butt up to a major street or a street that has a lot of traffic. Staff went to print those out, and they are somewhere, maybe in cyberspace. I'm not sure. I never got them off the printer, so I apologize to Mr. Buck. But what they did is they showed some of the concepts that we discussed, which was fencing along the road, additional landscape buffering that would soften that facade. Also, in looking at some of the facades that, and this wasn't necessarily in Clearfield specific, and I can't remember the locations of all of them, it seems that the architectural feature on the building is a little bit higher quality than some of those that we saw as well. But again, that fencing and that landscaping. There was also a discussion of the orientation and maybe changing that as well. The developer and I had that conversation, and he's open to consider some of those things, what would be most consistent with the council in order to approve this rezone for him to move forward with this project. So staff has provided you with the Planning Commission recommendation, which was positive, recommending approval to the council, and then the council at this time has the opportunity to recommend or to approve, deny, or table for further consideration. So, any other questions for staff?
Okay. Thank you, Spencer. We'll go ahead and declare the public hearing open. Once again, I don't have any forms for anyone to speak in regards to this, but don't want to take that opportunity away. Okay, then we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Your Honor, seeing no request to comment, I would move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is closed. That moves us to our open comment period. And again, I don't have any forms for anyone that was here to address the council, but we don't want to deny that opportunity. This is our period for you to come and express concerns. Is there anybody here that wanted to address the council this evening? Okay, well, we will go ahead and move forward. So that brings us to item number 4, which is to consider, we're back to this same parcel. So to consider approval of ordinance 2018-01, amending the city's general plan future land use map by changing the land use designation on the property located at approximately 1215 South, 1000 East from commercial to residential. Council, any further discussion on the general plan for this parcel?
Seems like best use of that land.
Okay, well then I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance 2018-01, amending the city's general plan future land use map by changing the land use designation for the property located at approximately 1215 South, 1000 East, from commercial to residential, and would authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Requires a roll call vote. Where's my water? Councilmember Phipps.
Aye.
Councilmember Roper.
Aye.
Councilmember Peterson.
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson.
Aye.
Councilmember Bush.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. Brings us to item number 5, which is to consider approval of ordinance 2018-02, rezoning the property located at approximately 1215 South, 1000 East from C2 commercial to R3 multifamily residential. Council, I turn that over to you, either for discussion or a motion.
Your Honor, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, that's
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance 2018-02, rezoning the property located at approximately 1215 South, 1000 East from C2 to R3, and authorize the mayor's signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Councilmember Bush?
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson?
Aye.
Councilmember Peterson?
Aye.
Councilmember Roper?
Aye.
And Councilmember Phipps?
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you. Item number 6 is to consider approval of Resolution 2018 R-03, authorizing the interlocal agreement with Utopia, the Utah Telecommunications Open Infrastructure Agency, to allow access to the city's rights-of-way for the installation and maintenance of its fiber network. Stuart's going to take this one, so I will turn the time over to Stuart.
Council Mayor, this is what was discussed previously at a work session. There's been no significant changes to the draft form that you've already reviewed with the interlocal agreement between Utopia and the city. Utopia is in partnership with the Utah Education Network for connecting to some schools, and they just want to clarify their ability to get access to our right-of-ways. They still will have to follow the correct permitting and construction guidelines that are set forth by the city. And it will actually hopefully benefit residents of the city as well. They could attach to it, as perhaps even the city will down the line. And there is one probably change to the staff report that's worth noting. I noticed in the fiscal impact that it doesn't list out, but does say in here that they are applicable for the telecommunication taxes, so we may actually get some there, but that's it. If anyone's got any questions.
No, so the purpose of this is for them to be able to get access from their existing
Lines
locations.
to the schools
to the local schools primarily, but that does put that down some of our main corridors. And so the hope is then that if you're right off of those main corridors, we'll be able to attach into that. And hopefully at some point bring the city in on it as well, to speed up our internet here.
So where is the, where are their trunks at? Would they be coming from? Is it downstate?
I'm not aware of that, yeah.
I'm certain because Layton is a Utopia city, they must be on what is Main Street in Layton and
Yeah.
State Street in Clearfield.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
R126.
Yeah, they are on Main Street, or I guess it would be Main Street in Layton.
Okay.
They do have it at my business office.
Oh,
It's
okay.
inside of there, which is right at that, close to that border of Layton and Clearfield. Okay, well then I would entertain a motion, council.
Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution 2018 R-03, authorizing an interlocal agreement with Utopia to allow access to the city's rights-of-way for the installation and maintenance of its fiber network, and authorize the mayor's signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Thompson?
Aye.
Councilmember Bush?
Aye.
Councilmember Roper?
Aye.
Councilmember Phipps?
Aye.
Councilmember Peterson?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Brings us to item number 7, which is to consider approval of Resolution 2018 R-04. We just figured we'd get all of the resolutions in one night. This is to authorize the amendment to the interlocal cooperation agreement with Davis County for animal control services. And
I'll take that.
we'll turn this one over to JJ.
Well, Chief Cruzy wrote the staff report, but he's out of town at a conference this week. So we did discuss this at a recent work session, talked about the slight increase in the annual fee. And this is the standard process. We have the interlocal agreement, but each year the fee increase comes back in the form of an amendment or an addendum to that interlocal agreement. So the increase from last year to to calendar year 18 is a little over $4,000, $4,300, and most of that is operational costs that have increased on the animal control side. So a fairly minor impact. We do anticipate that every budget cycle. We try to build in a little bit of an increase so that we have that already planned for, and that was the case this year as well. Are there any questions for me at all?
I had a question, just out of my own curious mind. Do we have a way of getting feedback of service that we're receiving?
We certainly can. We can meet with the animal control director and understand all of the data, the statistics. I believe the police department gets some reports
Okay.
with the bills, and we see what the number of calls were and the type of call.
I was wondering just if we got feedback from residents on the service
from
that they're
residents.
receiving as well, but.
I'd say that, you ask the residents, given that animal control is headed out to their house to enforce an animal issue, probably not very positive.
Well, yes. I've had some recent issues with it, which brought it to mind. It's never nice to have them come to your house, but if the surrounding residents who are putting in the complaint, are things getting resolved for the money that we spend?
Yeah. That's a really
Was
good.
my curiosity.
And the police department might have a better feel for that. Some of the calls go through the police department to Davis County Animal Control, and so
Okay.
they may have some sense of whether residents or those filing the complaints feel that their issues are being resolved or not. I don't want to put our lieutenant on the spot, but if he's got any thoughts on this, he's welcome to come and speak.
So, just in response to your question, it's hard to understand maybe what the citizens feel, but when we call for services from animal control, we get positive response from them.
Okay.
So whether that be code enforcement issues dealing with animals, or whether that be barking dog issues, number of complaints that the police department takes, when we turn that case over to animal control or call for their assistance on a dog bite or something similar to that, they've always been quick to respond, and we haven't had any issues with animal control that way. Again, as far as what the residents feel, not exactly sure how to gauge that, but I haven't had any complaints come to our department concerning that.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Thank you.
I would think that is about the only way to gauge that, would be the lack of calls back in to complain about it again, and why haven't you fixed it? Other than,
I agree.
did we meet your needs by taking care of it? Because a lot of times those are somewhat anonymous.
Yes, it is true.
They don't want their neighbor to know that it was them that complained.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion or questions, council? If not, I'd entertain a motion on this.
Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution 2018-R-04, authorizing an amendment to the interlocal cooperation agreement with Davis County for animal control services, and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Peterson.
Aye.
Councilmember Roper.
Aye.
Councilmember Bush.
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson.
Aye.
Councilmember Phipps.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. Item number 8 on the agenda tonight is to consider approval of the award of proposal for the 500 West Street Extension Project from 2000 South to 1700 South to the environmental study to CRS engineers. Scott, I'm going to ask Scott Hodge to come up and give us some background on this.
Mayor, Council, it's good to be with you this evening. As noted, recently the city went out to receive proposals from interested consulting firms that would help us with an engineering study to complete the 500 West project from Antelope Drive down to the Barlow Park area. This project is in conjunction with Syracuse City. They would own a portion of this right away as well. Clearfield City is the lead agency. And a couple of years ago, we submitted an application to receive federal funds to complete this project, and was successful in getting the grant money for that. This is one of the necessary steps for that federal funding, is to do an environmental assessment of that. So with these consultants, we'll go out and meet all the federal regulations as far as in compliance with the environmental review. That it will be done in conjunction with UDOT as well. They have to be in conjunction with the federal highway funding standards, and so this review will meet all those standards. There was 4 proposals that were submitted to the city. There was a review board with representation from Syracuse and Clearfield City reviewing those proposals, and it was a recommendation of that review committee to award the contract to CRS Engineering. The dollar amount of that is just under $79,000. It is $78,885, and the time frame to complete the work is approximately 5 months is what they estimated it would take to do that. We are excited to get that project done. The funding would not, I should say will not, but right now it is scheduled to come to the cities at 2021, 2022 timeframe. There is a possibility that it could be increased to where we could, or sped up to where we could get that a little bit sooner. If other projects that were on the STIP schedule are not able to meet the criteria to receive their funding, we might be able to jump ahead of them and get the funding. But at this time, it is 2021-22 that we're scheduled to receive the funding. Any questions?
So I assume that this is good for a couple of years, though, you know, so.
Yes. Yes. Once we get this study done, it'll have to be reviewed by UDOT, the proper channels to review this study. We'll get any comments back from them. We'll also get a letter back from them saying that it is in compliance. Once we get that, we could go ahead with the final design, and that would be the next step in making sure we are ready for the funding when it becomes available. This design will get us to a 30% design criteria as part of the study.
Excellent. Any further questions for Scott? Okay, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Council, seeing no further discussion, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the award of proposal for the 500 West Street Extension Project from 2000 South to 1700 South environmental study to CRS Engineers, the highest scoring vendor, and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That brings us to item number 9, which is to consider approval of ordinance 2018-03, enacting Title I, Chapter 16, Code Enforcement in the Clearfield City Code. We will turn the time over to Spencer.
Just wanted to watch him jump.
I know, I was just waiting for him, just looking at him down there.
Council Mayor, I will take this one. Since we last met, we received, I don't know if the staff report indicate, we received a lot of questions. We worked with staff, responded back. Hopefully we've answered most of those. There may be some still to be discussed, but I just wanted to let you know that there's a couple other minor edits that were caught. And so we'll be editing. There was a super fund still listed in there, and the word super will be deleted out of there. We missed that one, just a typo. Or an oversight. It's just it won't be so super. Yeah. It's an adequate fund.
It's an adequate fund. There we go.
Then there's also 2 words that were used to describe the same fund, an operations fund and enhancement fund. We'll be, just to be consistent, we're going to call it an enhancement fund unless somebody has a strong feeling the other way around. And then we'll be improving the definition of the term de novo, and actually looking at where it's used in the code. We may not actually need to define it because it says it's not de novo, so rather than saying that, we'll just say what it is, possibly, rather than saying what it's not. So those were the 3 that aren't included in the staff report, but if anyone has any further questions, Spencer and I would be happy to field them. We did have, in addition, there was one more question as far as timing goes of when the transfer may take place. The code enforcement officer opening is closing tomorrow. We have got a contract back from the contractor that's going to be providing the programming for it. As soon as we finalize that, which we should be able to do late this week, early next week, it'll just be a couple of weeks until that's up and going. Anticipate staff will play with that program for a week or 2 to get used to it before we completely switch over. Talking tonight, we're hopeful for May 1st. We might try and coincide that with the Clearfield, the week. Clearfield. Celebrate
Clearfield.
Clearfield matters, so I was getting confused. But we do. So, any other questions? I'd be happy to.
I appreciate your consideration of the comments and the questions. I think there's still some wording issues that I struggle with, but I trust that you'll defend us well if we get sued.
Well, I appreciate that. No, I put in that for everybody's benefit too. That, we're getting some questions, but I wanted everybody to be able to see because they're common questions.
Yeah.
From my standpoint, some of those, man, if we're going down that lane, down some of these roads, and there are possibilities, it could happen. But if we're going down that road, we're way off track.
Yeah.
In my opinion, of what we're intending to do here. We're not coming out with bulldozers the first week and trying to take out blocks. We're gonna, unless Spencer wants to do something different.
Stuart,
So.
could you, for the benefit of
Sure.
those here and those watching us on Facebook,
Yeah.
hi Mom,
Hi. Good night, kid.
just briefly kind of give an explanation as to the purpose behind the ordinance, behind the change, what we're doing here with our code enforcement.
Well, the purpose is to hopefully gain voluntary compliance. Everybody will get who's found in violation or a reported violation comes into the city, whether that's an email or a phone call or an in-person, an on-view by one of the officers, they'll get a warning. So you'll get what's called a notice of violation, and you'll have 14 days to cure that. And you can contact and get an extension if you need to, and they'll work with you as much as possible, and you don't have to pay anything. There's no fines or fees with that. This process takes it out of a criminal arena, where in the past you might get that same warning, and if you didn't comply, you would get a Class B misdemeanor, which theoretically carried the possibility of jail and a fine. That takes this out of that realm. You still have a right to exercise your due process rights if you believe that you are not in violation of a weed violation or a junk vehicle, whatever it is. You can have a hearing. It'll be an administrative hearing, which is similar to a criminal case. A criminal hearing is just a little more informal, and then it'll go, there's some appeal rights along there as well. It's the same thing. Every day you're in violation. It's the same as criminal. Each day is a violation. Each day is a violation in the civil. But in all actuality, the goal is always compliance. So Spencer is going to be taking this over and trying to gain compliance, and so a lot of that will be negotiating with the person and giving them time and working with them and trying to explain to them why we need this cleaned up and what needs to be done. So the biggest thing is taking it out of the criminal arena, putting it into the civil arena, but you still have due process rights. Hopefully it'll be a quicker process and alleviate the city from having to return to homes again and again with the same problem.
Perfect. That's good. So hopefully that clarifies that for everyone else. We're taking this away from the police department and turning this over to Spencer's department, because it's what he wanted to do.
He's more civil.
Yeah, he's more civil.
Sorry.
But ultimately, the idea behind this is the image of our city, and we don't ever want to have to be as a city that, that heavy-handed government that says, you got to do this with your property, you got to do this. But at the same time, we want to make sure that our residents have respect for the people that are around them and take care of their property to the point where it doesn't affect values of the neighbors and it doesn't infringe on the rights of those neighbors as well. And so that's the purpose behind the ordinance as a whole, and it's their purpose behind code enforcement. This just takes it out and makes it more functional, we'll call it that way.
For better and quicker enforcement.
It is better and quicker enforcement, gives it some teeth, if we want to put it that way, to actually make things work.
Well, I think that it's more friendly, I guess, in a
Yes.
sense, where the objective is to fix it and not to punish somebody.
Exactly. We don't want to put anybody in jail, so we're taking that out of it altogether. So.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, council, if there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion on this
Your
ordinance.
Honor, I move to approve ordinance 2018-03, enacting Title I, Chapter 16, Code Enforcement in the Clearfield City Code, and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
Do we need to amend to the changes that were expressed?
The ordinance as amended with the things that Stuart said tonight.
Okay.
That work for our recorders down there?
Okay.
Second concurs.
Second. Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. This does still require a roll call vote. Councilmember Bush.
Aye.
Councilmember Phipps.
Aye.
Councilmember Peterson.
Aye.
Councilmember Roper.
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. Well, this brings us to the, what I will call the biggest item on the agenda. Oh, no, we've missed one.
Got one more before that.
That was number 9. Yeah, I'm on to number 10. Almost the biggest item. This is to consider approval of ordinance 2. There are so many ordinances and resolutions on this agenda, I'm just losing track. This is to consider approval of ordinance 2018-04, amending the city's consolidated fee schedule to include a structure for enforcing selected ordinance violations through a civil administration process. we just
Well,
covered this. This is
yeah.
exactly what we just discussed. Council,
Yes.
is there any further clarification that you need on this?
These are just the fees that are associated with what we talked about in the other
Correct.
ordinance. I would point out that I noticed here it says that the $50 per day of continuing violation for 10 days immediately should be 14 days. Originally, the ordinance was drafted with a 10-day notice. We
Change
wanted
that.
to give 2 weekends to cure the problem, so we extended it to 14.
Perfect. Council, any other changes to the fees? Okay, then I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance 2018-04, amending the city's consolidated fee schedule to include a fee structure for enforcing selected ordinance violations through a civil administrative process and authorize your signature to any necessary amendments with the amendment that was just mentioned.
Sorry, Nancy.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second from Councilmember Thompson. Councilmember Thompson?
Aye.
Councilmember Roper?
Aye.
Councilmember Peterson?
Aye.
Councilmember Phipps?
Aye.
Councilmember Bush?
Aye.
Thank you, that is unanimous. That now brings us to item number 11, which is to consider approval for the purchase of the Clearfield Mobile Home Park located at 442 South State Street. And I'm going to turn the time over to JJ for our background on this.
Yes, this has been many months in the making, if not years, to be honest. This is a key property in the city of Clearfield, right in the middle, and this area has been identified in our various planning documents as the heart of our future downtown. When it came on the market a few months ago, council instructed staff to submit a bid, and our bid is the one that was selected by the seller. So the council is well aware of that process, and our offer price was $4.75 million. We included in the offer a contingency that the offer would be contingent on formal approval by the city council. So that's why we're here tonight. We are scheduled to close on the property on Thursday, assuming we have a positive vote on this item tonight. And we just finished a discussion in our work session about the redevelopment of this area. Now, I don't want to treat lightly the fact that this acquisition does affect some households in a very real way. It is a very difficult situation in that about 48 households will need to relocate in the near future. That's a hard thing, and I don't want to pretend that it's not. But we're doing everything we can to work with each of those households to provide them with assistance to find a new place to live. And we want to be as compassionate as possible in that effort. Nevertheless, we have here tonight this item to approve the purchase and move forward with our plans, which are key, critical, really, to the city's future. Are there any questions for me at all?
Okay. Council, any further comments or questions before I call for a motion? Okay, then I will entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'll move to approve the purchase of the Clearfield Mobile Home Park located at 442 South State Street in the amount of $4,750,000 and authorize the mayor's signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. This does not require a roll call vote, but I'm doing it anyway. Councilmember Roper.
Aye.
Councilmember Bush.
Aye.
Councilmember Phipps.
Aye.
Councilmember Peterson.
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson.
Aye.
That is unanimous. That brings us to our communication items. A couple of weeks ago during our last policy meeting, Councilmember Bush and I were privileged to be out of town and attend the National League of City meetings in D.C. I chair the Military Communities Council, and we took the opportunity as a group to go meet with Congressman Bishop and discuss the needs of our military communities nationwide. One of the biggest issues that we brought up was BRAC and the fear that's out there of another BRAC round. And he assured us that there is no taste in Congress for another BRAC round. But that doesn't prevent the DoD, the Department of Defense, from kind of realigning missions on bases and putting some things in one base and potentially rendering a base dead without actually closing the base. After that, or before that meeting, Secretary Mattis, the Defense Secretary, had issued a report, and in his report had talked about quality of life being one of the key decisions in future basing missions and where they will put those things. And with quality of life, one of the biggest factors he brought out was spouse employment, the ability for military spouses to obtain employment. That is a huge challenge for our military right now. It is one of the reasons that they lose people in reenlistment. They enlist, their spouses have a job, they're then sent to another location and can't obtain employment because those licenses don't transfer. A teacher in Minnesota who obtained her teaching certificate in Minnesota doesn't transfer to Utah. Comes out here and can't teach anymore. So they're losing people, and it's a major struggle. You go from 2 incomes to 1, and you can imagine how that is for a military family when the pay isn't phenomenal to start with. We don't pay our airmen or military members a huge amount of money. So we discussed that with him as well and asked for some help nationally in taking care of that. Yesterday I had the opportunity to attend Congressman Stewart's security forum down in Salt Lake. And as part of that, Governor Herbert signed, if I had to remember the bill, I'd be crazy, but passed through the Senate. It was actually sponsored by Senator Weiler, which eliminates the need in most professions or any profession under the Department of Professional Licensing in Utah for a military spouse to have that license. If they have a license or certificate from another state, whether that be as a teacher, whether that be as a realtor, they are allowed to come to Utah and work and be put to work immediately and given actually some preference in line as far as making that happen. So phenomenal bill. The governor showed up to sign it while we were there, so Utah is unbelievably ahead of the nation in this effort to make things happen. So very, very cool. And then this last week had the opportunity to attend the change of command for the 419th, one of the 419th squadrons, our operations group. Pounder had been with us for 19 years in Utah and was just sent to the Pentagon. His replacement has been here before and is excited to come back to Utah. So very cool. We have upcoming in the next 2 weeks the change of commands for both the 75th Air Base Wing and the 419th Fighter Wing as a whole. Colonel Hammerstedt, the Air Base Wing commander, will be headed to the Pentagon. Colonel Smith, the head of the 419th Fighter Wing, which is our reservist unit on base, is also headed to the Pentagon. Tells you something about Hill when they're stealing all of our leadership and sending their next assignment as the Pentagon, and it seems to be that as soon as that happens there, they end up with a different piece of material on their shoulders and become generals. So very cool. We'll be in attendance at each of those changes of commands. That is all I had for tonight. Let's see, Councilmember Bush.
I was also at that conference. It was very enjoyable, and I learned quite a bit. I'm on the Community and Economic Development National Committee. So as we met there, a lot of the concern throughout the country is affordable housing and being able to provide housing for the workforce that is needed in the country. They can't afford a lot of the housing, and that was a big concern throughout the nation, and also infrastructure throughout the nation. A lot of it is, I think we're blessed here in Utah and here especially, but a lot of the infrastructure throughout the country, bridges and streets and roads and water lines are deteriorating rapidly, and the cities don't have money to fix that without federal funds. I attended a couple of classes on the western states. I'm on that group, and small cities. And some of the same problems that we have, the same problems small cities throughout the country. The western states meeting was particularly interesting because the leaders of the various states' League of Cities would get up and tell what's going on in their state. And I just thought it was Utah's legislature that was, I don't know how to say it nicely, but trying to undermine the cities because they think they know more than the city councils. But all of the western states' legislatures are doing the same thing. They're trying to take over the government of the cities and not letting the cities govern themselves, which is really a bad idea for the citizens of the states to have the state legislators being able to tell you what your zoning is going to be and what you can do instead of on a local level. So it's a problem all over. I emailed you a couple of my notes from some of the meetings that I went to, and I would like to go over those sometime in a workshop. There's a couple of things that I think is important that we need to discuss. So,
Okay, we can make that happen.
that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Peterson?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Councilmember Thompson?
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Roper?
This last weekend, the Youth Commission did a little service project. We went and cleaned up around the Aquatic Center and Fisher Park. Had a good time doing that. These are kids that are really invested in their community, not just governmental-wise, but they want to make sure their community is clean and organized, and they encourage all youth to come get involved. It was a good lesson for them. They had a good discussion after of their mistakes they made and things they did right, and definitely things that they can all improve on as they move forward with this. For our next meeting, we're going to be going to the North Davis Fire District and checking out there and having some fun with some of the equipment. And Chief has given us our blessing to go hang out for a little while. So it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks.
Excellent. Great group of kids. Councilmember Phipps?
Yeah, I was asked by the mayor to represent the city at the Air Force Association Scowcroft Awards Banquet.
Thank you.
And it was a great evening to be associated with such great patriots and both civil service and military. They do phenomenal work at the Hill Air Force Base. And it's supporting their logistics role, supply chain management kinds of things. And they just have... They do it takes a lot to maintain and sustain an Air Force, and they do really, really well at what they do, including information technology and some things like that too. So I had an opportunity to sit at a table with some defense contractors, which I have to say underscored the irony of them talking about, we need to meet with you. Well, we're working up there, but you're in Layton, and I kept thinking, we can put an office for you in Clearfield there. You don't have to drive through Clearfield to get to your office. But so someday we'll be to that. Wasatch Integrated, I had my meeting there today, and the transfer station proceeds. They've been bit by, like everybody has, with the dramatic increase in materials, and so that's caused some problems with them, as well as anybody that's building anything right now. Mm-hmm. And great plans, still some significant plans for increasing the recyclable potential of the waste stream there. There is a retreat that I'll be going to on the 21st. So I guess we're going to trash a conference center, I suppose. But, so I'll come out of that learning more about waste management than I've ever thought I needed to know. But
where is the retreat this year?
It's actually up in Park City.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh.
Yeah. So.
Very cool.
And I did want to mention the Parks and Recs Commission last week went through some of their goals, and one of their goals is to increase the communication between the council and the Parks Commission. Hopefully you may see them more engaged in attending meetings and being involved in that. So
fantastic. Thank you very much.
That's all I have.
Okay, staff reports. JJ?
I do have a few items regarding the Clearfield Mobile Home Park. I wanted to report back that we've met once in a large group format with the residents of the mobile home park. We have another meeting scheduled with them tomorrow. From that point, it'll be more one-on-one type meetings, especially between our property manager and those residents. But I think that's moving forward as well as can be expected. And if you have any questions about, for example, the relocation assistance that we're providing, we can provide that to you. On that same note, we are issuing bonds tomorrow, as has previously been authorized, and the closing on the transaction to purchase the park is on Thursday, as I mentioned earlier. Last week, on a totally different note, all of our staff went through customer service training. We want to make, that's one of our core values as an organization, and it was really good training. So that's one area where we intend to really focus, not just with our customer service center, but all of our staff, all of our departments. We all have opportunities to have contact with the public or with internal customers, and customer service is definitely a focus. Part of that effort was an employee survey regarding their feelings toward employment with Clearfield City. By and large, that feedback was very positive. There are a few people who have some struggles or challenges, but by and large, the employees of Clearfield really like working for Clearfield, and it was really good feedback. Looking forward, on Thursday, and I'll let Spencer or Trevor speak a little bit more to this, we have an open house for the station area plan. On Saturday is the egg hunt and dive. The hunt is, quickest 30-second hunt ever, right?
Yes, it is.
Everyone Matters Day is April 11th, and I'm not sure how many of you are planning to attend the League of Cities and Towns Conference the third week of April, but we have that coming up as well.
Very good.
It might be the fourth week.
25th, 26th.
They all blur together.
In April.
Yeah.
Nancy?
Pretty full agenda in April. We're meeting every Tuesday. So next week we've got work session, mostly budget discussion. We'll be in work session and policy session on the 10th. Again, work session on the budget on the 17th. And work session and policy session on the 24th.
Okay. Any other staff reports? Yeah, got both of them.
JJ mentioned this, and we just wanted to make sure we keep the momentum going. So a few months ago, we awarded a contract for this Clearfield Station area plan, and we set a date as March 29th for that first public open house. That is on track, and we'll meet this Thursday evening from 6 to 8 in the multi-purpose room. I talked with our consultants today, and there'll be a little bit different approach to this stationary plan that has happened in the past, or the planning of this with an economic analysis that talks about market demand and opportunity, as well as discussion of principles and concepts that create place at the Clearfield station. So we're encouraged by that. We've had some social media output, but also just trying to get the word out as much as we can. So this Thursday, the 29th, 6 to 8 p.m. in the multi-purpose room for that open house. So, any questions about that or the process in general?
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
We invite everyone to be there. Okay, Trevor?
All right. Mayor and Council, I just want to update you on an upcoming series of events at the end of April and early May. So April 27th is going to be the start of our Celebrate Clearfield Week. So this is a new initiative this year. Last year, Rose and I noticed there were a lot of events in this time frame. It was a little bit difficult for us to promote because they were kind of all over the place. We had a police event, we had an aquatic center event, recreation events, parks events. So this year, we put them all under one umbrella called Celebrate Clearfield. Starting on the 27th, we're going to have Arbor Day activities in the morning. And then that evening is going to be a summer recreation preview that's going to be at the Aquatic Center. And then on the 28th is going to be Take Pride in Clearfield Day. We're going to be posting, creating an event on Facebook where people can post potential projects in their neighborhoods, and everybody else can sign up for those as well. And then on the 3rd of May, we are going to have a big party hosted by the police department, and Latinos in Action from North Davis Junior High and Clearfield High, just kind of as a final event. Some other things that we've got going on during that time, we are going to be painting the plow blades at some of the schools around our city. Kind of a thank you to our public works for doing such a great job during the winter and hello summer. We don't have to worry about snow hopefully after May 3rd. And then we'll be displaying those that night, and we're going to be painting a plow blade that night as well, collectively as a community. That night we'll have food provided by Azteca de Oro. We're going to have dancing by the Latinos in Action, some other entertainment booths. The K-9 unit's going to be there, Davis SWAT, and AirMed will all be there. North Davis Fire District will be there, spraying everybody down with water. It'll be a lot of fun. The pool is open for free swim that night, and just a lot of different demonstrations from Clearfield staff. So kind of a big celebrating Clearfield night together with that police outreach night. So we encourage you all to put those on your calendars. Be at those various events. We are going to do our Search the City scavenger hunt during that week as well. So you all are eligible as long as you don't ask me where they're at. So, so we're very excited about this week. We're going to be sending out something in the utility bill and other channels with coupons for the spring cleanup voucher for the landfill, as well as $5 off their recreation signups at that recreation preview night on the 27th. So really great event. We've been planning it and getting it put together. It's been fun to collaborate with all the departments and see that. So,
when's that going to be on Facebook page?
It will be on the Facebook page soon. So we have to get the insert done tomorrow, and everything will trickle down from there. Newsletter will be going out tomorrow with some information, and then the April newsletter will have more information that will go out before the event, and then we'll just blast that out. So, yeah. Any other questions for me? Yeah. So
Make sure you're sharing his posts.
yes.
Get this stuff out there. And, let me thank Trevor and Rose, and frankly, all of staff. We talk a lot about the mobile home park, and it's been kind of the center of our focus for a while, because it's a massive deal, but there are so many other things going on behind the scenes, and with the purchase of the park, as well as with everything else that is going on in the city. And so thanks for all you're doing. We're in the throes of preparing for 4th of July, and
Yep.
in between now and then, there's a whole slew of other things that got to happen. So
Yeah, we're pro jugglers.
we have an amazing staff. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we will. I need a motion to adjourn
I will make a motion
in the
to,
council session, the policy session, and adjourn and reconvene downstairs on the 2nd floor for
Okay.
our press conference.
I make a motion to adjourn council meeting and reconvene the 2nd floor for a press conference.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right.
We need to stop before.
Airway is just not playing nice. It's not a cold, it's like it swells up. And
I've had that for that cough. That's why I asked for like almost. It was bad, really bad, like 6 months ago, but it calmed down. But I understand that feeling where it's just like persistent, won't go away.
it's like it's an irritation.
Yes.
And just trying to like breathe
Yes.
shallow and not.
Have fun at your press conference.
Is there anything that's serious?
I don't know.
So far, it's been a much of that. Nothing. But
Yeah,
but we're
it's been really quiet.